Hi class. So this lecture is about the muscles. So the first one would be the forearm, and here's the forearm. I could use the model, the plastic model at the lab, but they're not very useful for visualizing and understanding, so I would rather use this complete anatomy software because here I can highlight. You can see the name of the muscle and the action of the muscle. So what would be the importance is to know the muscle and one action of that particular muscle. So everything is judged from the anatomical position. So all of these muscles that you see from the anterior point of view are the flexors. For example, if I will highlight brachioradialis and I'll go into the motion, so you see it's a flexion, right? So all of the muscles that are on anterior side are the flexors. So for example, if I will choose flexor carpi, so you see there's the flexor muscle and it's attached, kind of overlaps the carpal bones. Not only it flexes the wrist, it is also responsible for the wrist abduction. So you see the wrist abduction going away from the midline, so going lateral. Also, as a group, flexors are connected at the medial epicondyle. So you see the group of flexors, so this is a pronator, but then again, like here's the flexor, here's the flexor, here's the flexor. So all these flexor muscles are connected to the medial epicondyle. So to put it in comparison, if we look at the back, the extensors that will extend, right? So the flexors, they flex, and the extensor, they extend, so they are connected on lateral epicondyle, which is here. Alright, so the important muscles of the forearm. Brachioradialis. So it's connected to the brachii, right? Brachii. And this is the interbrachii, so the arm and forearm. And then it's inserted, right? So it originates at the brachii and then it's inserted in the distal part of the radial bone. That's where this radial styloid process. So the brachioradialis flexes the elbow within the forearm. So there's also bicep brachii that we will discuss later. And this one is a brachialis. So another muscle is the flexor carpi radialis. So the flexor carpi radialis abduct the wrist. So they do the abduction. So flexor carpi radialis. And the flexor carpi radialis also flexes the hand at the wrist. So if there's a flexor carpi radialis, there should be a flexor carpi ulnaris. So the flexor carpi ulnaris is on the ulnar side, and the medial side. So flexor carpi ulnaris adducts the wrist. Here is the adduction, right? So it adducts, ADD, towards the midline. So here's the flexor action, and here is the adduction. So another important muscle is palmaris longus. Longus, it's long, and palmaris is the palm. So it's connected to a palm but crosses over the wrist. So and the palmaris longus connected to palmar aponeurosis. So what's interesting that sometimes palmaris longus is absent on both forearms. So let's recap. Brachioradialis flexes the forearm. Flexor carpi radialis abducts the wrist. Palmaris longus, when it's connected to aponeurosis, flexes the palm, and flexor carpi ulnaris adducts the wrist. So these are the four important muscles that are located on the forearm on the anterior side, so flexors. So also there is a pronator teres responsible for pronation from supine position to prone position. So here's a pronator teres but also right there, deep muscle, it is also pronator, but this one is pronator quadratus. Pronator quadratus and the pronator teres. So both of these muscles responsible for rotating the radial bone over the ulna, so it's a pronation. So underneath of all these flexors, there's another flexor, flexor digitorum superficial. So let's isolate this one. So you see this flexor digits, right? Flexor digitorum. So the more superficial muscles that we looked at, they were for controlling of the wrist, flexion of the wrist, abduction of the wrist, and adduction of the wrist. And this one is for flexing the digits. The one that is highlighted, there is flexor digitorum superficial, and you see it's inserted into the middle phalanx. So this one is a proximal phalanx, this one is the middle phalanx, and this one is the distal phalanx. So the tendons of the flexor digitorum superficial muscle inserted into the middle phalanx. But then there's a flexor digitorum profundus is connected to a distal phalanx. So we're able to do this, right? Some people can actually go like that, like this. So some people are able, like I can do this here, right? We see I'm able to do that. So the reason I'm able to bend just the distal phalanx is due to this flexor digitorum profundus muscle. And you see it's kind of inserted through the foramen of this tendon of the flexor digitorum superficial. So it's a flexor digitorum superficial muscle, and there's a flexor digitorum profundus. So all of them are responsible for this type of action, these muscles. The top one is the flexor digitorum superficial, and underneath, flexor digitorum profundus. So now it's 6 muscles, right? So the first 4 that we discussed are flexors for the wrist, abduction and adduction, and these 2 muscles are for flexing the actual digits, the phalanx. So there's another muscle that is able to control our pollex. So here's this muscle, it's highlighted, and you see it's connected directly to the distal phalanx of the pollex, flexor pollicis longus. So all these tendons that you see on the anterior side are flexors, and when I look at the posterior side, all of these tendons are extensors. But we will discuss this in the next video.